Okay, so here I have all of my ingredients mixed out. You always want to make sure you have everything together before you start cooking. That is the most important. You don't want to start cooking and realize that you forgot something. So here I'm just going to add my eggs, my vanilla extract, the milk, and oil. I'm going to mix all of that together until I see some bubbles, and then we'll move on. Next, I'm going to sift in the flour. I had some cake flour left over, so I'm just going to press out the lumps. Leaving all of the hard pieces in the strainer. And I'm going to mix that together really well because you don't want any lumps, you don't want any pockets of flour that you left out. Always making sure to get the flour from around the bowl. Don't forget to scrape the sides. I'm still seeing just little small lumps, so that's why I'm continuing to mix. And then after this, I'm going to go ahead and take my egg whites and sugar over to the mixer. While I do that, to get to this point, I whipped the egg whites until a soft peak form, and then I added half of my sugar and I whipped it, and then I added the other half until I have what you see here. I'm going to take a big spatula at this time, no longer a whisk, because I don't want to break down the egg whites. And I'm going to fold in the meringue that we made. I didn't realize how much meringue it was until I started adding it to the small amount of egg and milk mixture. But you want to mix until you don't see any streaks of yellow and white. You want it to be a completely pale yellow. Okay, go ahead and add in a third scoop. My arms started getting tired at this point. Making sure to get the middle of your bowl because it's very easy to forget the middle part and you still have unmixed product sitting in the center. So make sure you're getting the edges, make sure you're getting the middle, and just folding it into the center. And I'm going to go ahead and add the last of my meringue. Nope, there's more. So much meringue, but I loved it. In my previous video, it took me forever to try to figure this out and do it properly. The other recipes that I tried had a more watery, typical pancake-like mixture, which was not what I wanted. So once I found this recipe and figured it out, I am very happy that it's a light, fluffy, thick mixture that can stand up on its own without having to use a mold to keep it together. That's what's going to give you the height to your souffle pancakes, is the meringue that we made. So on the previous recipe that I tried, it just had me whip the egg whites into a soft peak and then mix the sugar into the eggs. But it works a whole lot better to make a meringue and mix the sugar into the eggs. It stabilizes it and makes it so much thicker. And that's where the money is in this recipe that you see here. Alright, so we've got our pan heated. I poured in the rest of that oil from earlier that I did not use. I'm going to wipe my paper towel around to get up all the excess. Excuse me. I'm going to wait for that to heat up just a bit. And now I do not have a portion scoop, so I'm just going to use my measuring cup. I think this is a 1/2 cup measuring cup. I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to put another dollop right on top. Pour just like a teaspoon, 1/2 teaspoon of water into the pan to create some steam. And then I'm going to cover it and let it cook. Alright, we're back. Let's take a look, see what we've got. Still holding its shape, which I absolutely love. I don't think it's quite ready just yet, so we're going to let it go. The bottom was not golden enough. It was still very pale. Alright, let's try this again. Yes, ready to flip. I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit though. It's a magic. And flip. I was so happy at this point. The other day when I tried this recipe, not this specific recipe, but another one, I was so upset about it because it was so flat. It just looked like a fluffy regular pancake, and that's not what I wanted. Look at that fluffy pancake. You see that jiggle? So great. Happy dance. Yes. Nice and fluffy, lots of jiggle. And I'm very happy with this recipe.
Alright guys, it is La Shell, not Chef, from Chef and Chef, and today we are making soufflé pancakes. But can I just start off by saying that this particular recipe is the bane of my existence. It was so not pretty. It was not the best experience that I have, but we'll start right into it. Basically, you just saw me separate the eggs. Which, I mean, I'm sure that's like basic skill 101. I use the eggshells in order to help separate it. Some people use their hands. Some people have like these handy little machines. But anyway, you mix it. You separate it. And I'm going to start with the egg yolk with some milk and some vanilla flavoring. And you're just going to whisk that until it gets very frothy and foamy. So that's what you see me doing here. This actually takes a little bit more muscle work than I thought it would. So once you start seeing those bubbles, keep going a little bit longer until it's like this real frothy texture. And another thing you're going to notice is that this whole video is probably going to be sped up, just because this recipe is pretty straightforward. As far as what the ingredients are and how to mix it. The biggest thing that you will need if you're going to try this recipe at home is to make sure you have your technique down. That is going to be the most important thing ever. So now what I'm doing, I'm adding a sifter, and I think it's like 1/4 cup of flour and a teaspoon of baking soda, and that's going to be your leavening agent in order to help these rise to get fluffier. So then you just want to mix that together until it's just combined. So you don't want to do too much mixing or over mixing, because at the end you want this to still have a fluffy texture. So then I'm going to set that aside. Okay, so here goes the fun part. We are going to whip these egg whites until they are no longer looking like what they look like now. So mix. And you're going to whip them until they get into these nice white, pillowy, fluffy peaks that are stiff and will stand up on their own and have like that little Dairy Queen curly Q at the top when you lift the mixer out of it. This process probably took a good 10 to 12 minutes of just constant mixing. But once you start seeing it getting frothy and have a little bit more of the white color to it, that's when you're going to add 2 tablespoons of sugar, and that's when you're going to get the sweetness to the pancakes. Again, these things are not overly sweet, and it doesn't really take a lot of ingredients to go in there. As you can see, we've only used 2 eggs, 1/4 cup of flour, 1.5 tablespoons of milk, and just 2 tablespoons of sugar. So, as you see, we're mixing it. It's getting thicker, closer to the consistency that we want it to look like. I'm raising up the speed of the hand mixer. You can do this by hand. It's just a lot more time consuming, which my motto as a home chef, I believe, you save time. Make sure you save time. Not that we have lots of time that we need to save, because a lot of us are at home and are experimenting with a whole bunch of different cooking techniques in their house already, which is fun. So if you guys have decided to try making something new, some bread or something like that, go ahead and comment below and let us know what you're making. If you tried to make bread or cookies, or if you're just baking more or cooking more, we'd definitely love to see in the comments some of those pictures, or even just sharing with us some of the recipes you use. So now that the egg whites are completely peaked up, what we're going to do is we're going back to the egg yolk mixture that we had before, and we are going to add half of the egg whites into that mixture, and we are going to whisk it in until it's combined. But you want to be Careful with this step because you don't want to take out a lot of the air bubbles, which is going to help it have that lift in the end. So once that is mixed and it is well combined, what you're going to do now is I'm still mixing. I probably should have stopped mixing. It's combined. Yeah, right there. See that? Okay. So once it is completely combined, then what we're going to do is we're going to add in the other half of the egg whites, and this time we are going to fold them in very, very gently. You want to keep that pillowy texture in there. You want it to have that high lift. You want to be able to still hear the bubbles in there, so do it very, very gently. Just make sure you fold it in. You see that right there is technique. Just like slowly mix it in until it's completely incorporated. And once that's completely incorporated and a homogeneous mixture and everything looks nice and even and a smooth texture, you don't want any lumps or air bubbles in there. Definitely a smooth texture. Then we're moving over to the skillet. So on the skillet, I just have a little bit of oil. You want the oil layer to be as thin as possible. One, we do not want the pancakes to stick, of course. But if you have too much oil at the bottom of the pan, it will cause oil spotting. What we want with these pancakes is a very smooth brown color. You don't want to have too much of the little spots and little errors. So this is more of like a cosmetic step. You don't need to take it, but go ahead after you wipe it in there and you've got it heating up a little bit. You take a paper towel and you dab up any of the excess oil that could cause any of those spots there, and that's what we don't want. So once we have this all preheated on a very, very low heat, because this is going to be more of a patience kind of game, then we're going to add in our batter. So this right here is where I went totally, completely, and utterly wrong. I crowded my pan way too much. I was not being patient enough, and I put all 4 pancakes in the pan at the same exact time, which we will see at the end why this dish ends up being more of an ugly, delicious kind of thing. They still tasted good, they still tasted fine, but as you'll see in the final results, they are not as pretty as we would want them to be. So I'm going ahead and I'm putting in the batter. And you just want to like lightly scoop it in there, and you want to give it height. You don't want it to spread. So you're not spreading them. You're trying to position it in a way that you're building on top of each other versus a flapjack, because this is not it. All right, so this next step right here, putting water in there, is going to help keep the pancakes moist as they cook. You're just going to drizzle in about a tablespoon of water into the empty spots of the pan, and then you're going to put the top back on and let the steam in there, and this is going to keep the pancakes moist. This is definitely more of a dumpling technique, which makes sense because the soufflé pancakes originate in Japan, and that is a cooking technique that you see over there. So you're just gonna wait and let them cook. The steam is gonna keep them moist. You're gonna do it for about 6 seconds on both sides. You're gonna flip it over and do the same thing. But again, my pan was too crowded. I was not able to get all the way underneath and flip them, so they are kind of crinkly. They don't jiggle as much as you've seen. Like if you've seen those other videos, when you like touch the plate, the pancakes will kind of have like this wiggle because they're very light and airy. These were still light, they were still airy, they just didn't have all of the aesthetics that I would have liked to have seen. But overall, it was a pretty good pancake. I'm definitely going to have to make these again and redeem myself. But yeah, these are my ugly, delicious souffle pancakes. Yeah, so I'll see you next time.